Baroness Gardner, Sir Paul, distinguished guests, colleagues, friends. I'm delighted to have been elected to chair this year's conference here in the East End of London. After last year's sojourn in Manchester, the committee discussed whether to continue to visit the grimy provinces or return to civilization. We might select venues year by year, but of course we don't want to tie the hands of the chair. I did, however, go up to a hotel in Nottingham. This was last year before it was announced that it was the crime capital of the entire known universe. Anyhow, it was absolutely terrifying to a southern softy like me. Certainly we weren't going to end up going there. The most interesting thing about the trip was in the hotel, the breakfast. There was an earth tremor. An earth tremor in Nottingham. Nothing very big. I was in all the papers. I was in a real earthquake many years ago in Greece, and this was nothing like it. But it's quite interesting being at breakfast and watching your porridge walk. Quite fun. Anyhow, when I got back, I told all this to one of my many girlfriends. Sound of disbelief or jealousy? Definitely disbelief. And that's a Woody Allen self-deprecating joke. Anyhow, she said she was disappointed not to have been there for that, because she'd lived in that sort of situation. And I'm very sorry to report to conference that this is not the first time I've received complaints that the earth failed to move. Which, by the way, is a Max Muller joke, I understand. I found that out later, after I told this story, and it's true story, to the Gender Conference Committee, and Lester Ellman came out with exactly the same comment. So I figure he's been receiving complaints as well. Anyhow, I said to her, this is at the same romantic dinner reception. Can't tell jokes. I said to her, I told this to her, she looked at me and she said, you know, like, you look like Warren, I said, Warren Beatty, and she said, Warren Mitchell. I took this as a clear signal that the future of that particular relationship was very definitely in the past. Back to the area. I knew this area very well when I was a student of the London. We used to come down to all the East End pubs along here, and we used to listen to the jazz bands like Temperance 7 and the Levity Lancers and the Bonzo Dog Doodah band. I remember having a drinking contest at the Tiger Tavern, which was the other side of the town, with some dental students from that other strange dental school at the other side of the Thames. It's called Fellows, Men, Guys, something like that. Anyhow, this was the scene of my biggest ever financial disaster. I've got to tell you the story. Let me take you back to 1974. A very skinny Brian Skinner, with hair like that, just with hair, was at that time already getting a little fed up with dentistry, and with a friend of mine who was an accountant, and still a friend of mine, which did a lot for me, we decided we'd have a sideline. And we took out a lease in an old tobacco warehouse the other side of the river. It's 2 roads back on the other side of the river. Fast echoing spaces. We put some porter cabins into the spaces and we let them out to pop groups. Well, I don't think we ever had anybody famous. We had the Clash, I think, once. But it was mainly kids whose mum said they couldn't rehearse in the garage anymore because it was annoying the neighbours. I don't think we made any money out of the groups. We made a fair bit, I think, out of the coffee machine. That was all right. Anyhow, the opportunity came a few months after we started, and the freeholder came along and said, look, buy us out. We needed the money. And I said yes, my friend said no, and we ended up not doing it. We closed down a year or so later, and he went off to his hobby of rock climbing, and I went into saloon car racing. As an exercise in self-flagellation, having seen was it the Da Vinci Code? I had a drive down there a few weeks ago. This building is still there. It's now carved up into perhaps a dozen multi-million-pound loft apartments, and you're ahead of me. The price in 1974 was £27,000. So that's why I'm still filling tea. And if that wasn't so true and so pitiable, well, that would be a Jackie Mason joke. I asked a number of people what I should make the theme of this year's conference, and they all said, try the contract. And I'm not going to, I think it might get a few mentions tomorrow. Although I will say that I simply cannot understand how we've arrived at a situation with a shortage of dentists and yet looming VT unemployment. It seems very, very odd. The other thing, more seriously, was suggested to me is the thing that I've been wobbling on about for years, which is the need for an agreed national scale of payments for LDC secretaries. It is certainly inequitable, in my view. Utterly inequitable, in my view, that, for example, in one London LDC, the secretary takes no honorarium and claims only for meetings, while in another, only a couple of miles away, the secretary gets 1.5 sessions a week, plus meetings, thus pocketing 30 grand out of a 50 grand budget. I've written on the corner here, will I get a sharp intake of breath? Well, anyhow, it seems to me to be an awful lot for running a little club. However, I've been warbling on about this for years, and everybody knows about it. Nobody wants to do anything, so I've decided not to speak about it this evening, except that it's quite fun to throw a stone in the water and see where the ripples go. I thought instead, much more seriously, that I would talk about something that reflects very much better in our profession. And I suppose it comes under the general heading, and I say this with no irony at all, of how lucky we are. How lucky we are. This theme came to me a year ago when, just by chance, I was visiting the London hospital just around the corner from here, and I found myself standing in Stepney Way, feeling fury, watching blood-stained casualties from the Aldgate bombing being helped out of a double-decker bus into the A&E. I was furious right from the start. No matter what the politicians said, it was obvious that the casualties had been the victims of homegrown terrorism, and that some people simply hated the country that had given them and their families refuge. I've spoken at conference before on the attitude the profession should take towards refugees and asylum seekers, many of whom live with dental pain and infection because they fear that applying for treatment might identify them to the authorities and end up with them being sent back to the places that they came from. So I thought I'd speak about how I and many other practitioners have come to emphasise the dental treatment of refugees and asylum seekers in our practices. Like many other post-war kids, I've generally thought that the world was getting better and that horrors of 1940s would never again be repeated, at least in Europe. My own road to Damascus came in the early 1990s with the civil war in the former Yugoslavia. Like many of you, I've got an informal arrangement with the local children's home, so that when they get new kids in and they have to do a medical workup, they bring them over to me and I do the dental inspection on the basis that it is absolutely axiomatic that you should never let a doctor look at anyone's teeth. A 12-year-old boy came in with an interpreter. Before he came to the surgery, she asked to have a quiet word with him. She said they were very concerned about him. He turned up in Dover with a scrap of paper with his brother's name and the name of the children's home where his brother was living. Since he'd arrived 2 weeks earlier, he hadn't said a word to anyone, and they were very worried about him. He jumped up in the chair, happily enough, and he opened his mouth, and like all these kids, he had one of those pre-fluoride toothpaste mouths that we used to see back in the 1970s, and he needed everything doing. So I started telling him through the interpreter that I was going to get some x-rays, and the next time he had the injection, and we'd do some fillings, and suddenly he started talking. At first haltingly, and then rapidly, and then urgently, and then he finished with a great smile on his face. And I noticed, to my astonishment, that the interpreter, a beautiful young woman, was in floods of tears.